the last class we were talking about the social change theory of Marx, right? In that we had described about tribalism or primitive communism, right? Then we talked about that this gives rise to ancient society, right? And further we had talked about feudal mode of production, capitalist mode of production, consequently socialist mode of production will come, and finally the communist mode of production will arrive. Here I had said one of the reasons that Marx says the change of tribal society to ancient society is growth of population, right? That we had read. And after this growth of population, we have said that it doesn't get much prominence in the Marxist writing. Here we said the development of forces of production, and in that we had said the forces of production develop because new source of energy is discovered, right? We had also said that when he is saying new source of energy, somewhat it is related with the calorific value of the energy element or the source of energy. If more calorific value is there, you cannot use that energy using the old technology. So when new source of energy is discovered, you need to develop the technology. Unless until the technology is developed, this new found source of energy cannot be utilized efficiently, properly, right? So write down. No, I had said that he had followed to an extent Henry Morgan. So when we'll be reading about this classical evolution theory, then we will be talking about some source of energy, like first manual, right? Then domestic animal. But he is not using those things, right? Perhaps he is using like wood as a source of energy, fire, right? Then coal as a source of energy. Then nowadays it's a nuclear energy, but Marx is no more here. So he is talking in that sense, right? Whenever, according to Marx, whenever new source of energy is discovered, whenever new source of energy is discovered, forces of production tend to develop, forces of production tend to develop as with the older technology, the new source of energy, in bracket you can write down with high calorific value, cannot be used efficiently, With the development of forces of production, relations of production changes as the new forces of production cannot be used within the old relations of of production within the old relations of production. In other words, the emerging forces of production, are in contradiction with the old relations of production, and both belonging to economy, comma, Marx calls it internal contradiction. According to Marx, internal contradiction is the main mechanism. Of social change. Internal contradiction is the main mechanism of social change. Right? Now, what Marx has talked about, he has talked about many mechanisms of social change. One we just now said, internal contradiction. And related with the internal contradiction is, there is another mechanism that is known as class struggle. Right? To quote Marx, history of humankind is history of class struggle. We have already mentioned that when surplus production occurred, private property came into existence. And with the existence of the concept of private property, the society got divided into two classes. One is dominant class, another is subordinate class. And we had mentioned that the relationship between dominant and subordinate class is one of contradiction as well as complementarity. Right? For example, proletariat cannot get wages if there is no one as entrepreneur, and entrepreneur cannot be a successful capitalist if he doesn't get labor force. Right? So they are complementing each other function. But at the same time, the second part is that capitalists want to minimize the wages of the worker, and workers' interest is to maximize the wages. Right? So they are interest classes. This class of interest between the two classes is also known as class struggle. Right? But what is very significant in Marx's theory of social change is that this dimension of class struggle, that is between the dominant class and the subordinate class, is incapable of bringing change in the society. The struggle between masters and serfs, masters and slaves, the struggle between barons and serfs, that is not capable of bringing the changes. Right? But contrary to that, what we will see, that the class struggle between capitalist and the proletariat will bring change in the capitalist mode of production into socialist mode of production and finally communist mode of production. We want to understand that mechanism. Stages of society. Right? Here the first stage, I am simply mentioning PC, that is primitive communism, then ancient society, then feudal society, and then capitalist society. Right? All these societies possesses two classes, dominant and subordinate. Dominant class, why they dominate? Because of the bargaining power due to possession of the private property. And second is the subordinate class. First is the dominant class and second is the subordinate class. One more thing I had mentioned, that this dominant class are always in minority and this subordinate class is always in majority. Dominant class is always in minority and subordinate class is always in majority. Means a minority rules over the majority of the population of the society, and the simple reason for that is that they possess private property and they dominate on the other class. Now how this changes? What we said, whenever new source of energy is discovered, right, new forces of production tend to develop. Now in this period what we have, masters, and here we have slaves, masters and slaves, here barons, and here serfs, here bourgeoisie, and here proletariat or proletariat. Right? As we said that these two will share class antagonism or antagonistic relationship. So antagonistic relationship means there will exist a class struggle between the two. The class struggle between minority and majority. But this class struggle is incapable of changing the ancient society to feudal society. Right? So if I talk about mechanism of social change by Marx, if such short notes come, what is the mechanism of social change by Marx? We can mention two. One is class struggle and another is internal contradiction. Class struggle, as he said, one dimension is minority versus majority, right, which is incapable of bringing change from ancient to feudal and feudal to capitalist mode of production. Now when we talk about internal contradiction, then first dimension of internal contradiction is the contradiction between old ROP and new FOP, right? Now let us assume these two. Now in comparison, this is older society, older stage of society. So what we can call it as old forces of production and old relations of production. Old forces of production and old relations of production. In comparison, here we will find OFOP, OROP. Here it is new FOP, that is new forces of production. We have discovered a new source of energy and that source of energy can be harvested only when we develop a new technology, a better technology, improved technology, right? Now whether this technology can be efficiently utilized in the old relations of production or not. Right? This you can understand more appropriately from here. Capitalist society, bourgeoisie are in the absolute control over the forces and means of production. Means the wage laborers are merely the wage earner. They do not have any interference or say in the management, right, in the process decision, in the product decision, and in the product fate. Right? They have only one responsibility, or you can say only one role. You come in the factory, do the work, and get wages and go back your home. Right? Now what we have seen in this situation, barons and serfs. Now it is serf has a lot of independence. What to be sown in the field, how to be sown, right? What are the ingredients that we want to use, as in sharecropping we had said, and what would be the fate of the product. Now let us assume that is the relations of production between barons and serfs in the feudal society. Now if in a factory system of production, if you give such independence to the wage earners, you also decide which process I should utilize in the production of a commodity. What to be produced in the factory. You decide about what should be the timing for the people or the laborers to come and work. Here you will find there is no restriction. Serfs, if they wish, they can work in the night. They can work in the morning. They can work in the afternoon. There is no direct control of the barons. Barons will never ask that you wake up early 4 o'clock in the morning and go to work. They feel it is better to go in the morning so that we will be protected from the heat of the sun. They go. There is a freedom. Here it is not so. Night is to sleep. But if you are a worker and 3 shifts is being done in the factory, and if the management or the owner decides that you have to come in the night and work, you do not have any other option. Right? But if such independence is given to this class, they are similar. Here they are subordinate, here also they are subordinate. If such independence is given to proletariat, nothing will be produced in the factory. आज मेरा मूड नहीं है काम करने का, नहीं ऐसे हाथ लगा के बैठ जाएंगे. This happens in the trade union movement, right? I don't want to work today. This has happened with the trade union movement when all the public sector units had proved to be white elephant, whereas the private sector companies, whatever limited options they had, they survived and they were successful also. Right? It means what? This new forces of production cannot work within the old relations of production. Rather, the person, the people who are associated with new forces of production, this class, will try to establish new relations of production. Right? Similar condition, if we compare these two, OFOP, OROP, NFOP, NROP. Internal contradiction. there is a contradiction between old relations of production and new forces of production. The owner of the new forces of production will like to establish the new relations of production, where the wage earners, they have a limited role or rights. They can only work and talk about their wages, that's all. They do not have any interference in the overall production process and management of the factory. Right? Now this class is being benefited in the old relations of production. Right? This class barons will, if they start giving wages to the serfs, they are going to suffer losses. That's why sharecropping system was prevalent at that time. So this class will like to maintain the old relations of production, and this class will like to establish the new relations of production. Are you getting it? They will like the worker who are merely wage earner. They will like the worker or peasants who have sufficient independence in the decision of the production process. Right? It means what? There is a struggle between barons and serf, class struggle. Minority, old dominant minority versus emerging dominant minority. Are you getting it? Tripti. We had a Tripti also in 2012. She is right now IPS Uttarakhand, her home state. She was Tripti Bhatt. Right? But you have to work hard equally. She is posted right now at Dehradun. Anyway, so OROP means this person, similarly masters will like to maintain this old relations of production and barons will like to establish this new relations of production, and that's why a struggle will exist between old dominant class and new dominant class. Right? A struggle is there. Now the issue is who will win in this struggle, in this fight, in this conflict. Marx answers that question by saying the progressive class will win. Right? So what we are finding here, minority versus minority, old dominant minority, emerging dominant minority. Old dominant minority and emerging dominant minority. Right? In the conflict of interest, write down, according to Marx, in the conflict of interest, in the conflict of interest, according to Marx, comma, progressive class wins. And who among the two, if I compare barons and bourgeoisie, who will be progressive, more progressive? Why? Productivity is high. Why productivity is high? Only new forces of production is sufficient. What should be the appropriate word that is to be used? That person will be successful who uses better technology. right? Better technology means developed forces of production. In the comparison between barons and barons and bourgeois, this class uses better technology, that means better or developed forces of production. Naturally, that class who is capable of using the developed technology or developed forces of production, he can only be called as progressive class. So, in the conflict of interest, progressive class always wins. Progressive class means those who are associated with the developed forces of production. Right? So, in the conflict of masters and barons, barons will win. In the conflict of barons and bourgeoisie, bourgeois will win. Right? Now, what will happen? Now, their question comes, who will emerge as the bourgeois? Whether they will be erstwhile barons or they will erstwhile serfs. Marx says anybody, anyone, this bourgeois may come from the class of barons or from the class of serfs. Right? So, Bill Gates was not the son of some renowned capitalist. Right? He was the son of a very ordinary middle class worker. And he invented Windows, the developed technology, and that's why he became the richest person of the world. Right? But if you talk about Tata, Ratan Tata, Cyrus Mistry, who are these people? They are the progenies of Mukesh Ambani, progenies of erstwhile capitalist or dominant class. Many of the capitalists you will find, for example, this DLF, what is his name? KP Singh. He had a feudal background. He belongs to a family of landlords, and he has become one of the largest capitalists of India. Right? So, anybody who gets associated with this new forces of production, new technology, new tools, developed forces of production, he will come to become the new dominant class. Right? Now, initially, what will happen? A few persons, 1, 2, 3 or maybe 10, will be turning capitalist. Society does not change on one fine night. For example, as freedom at midnight, as if at midnight of 14th August 1947, everything was done. It was being agitated for a very long time. Right? 1947, 14th August, 12 p.m. is the culmination of that period. So, initially, 1 or 2 people became nationalist. Initially, 1 or 2 people will become capitalist. When other people will see that they are progressing fast, they are accumulating capital more rapidly, they are becoming more richer, their efficiency of production is better, right? They will act as an inspiration for all these people. And gradually their number will increase. Once their number increases sufficient enough listen to the word carefully, once their number increases sufficient enough, then we say the new mode of production has come into existence. Number. So quantitative change becomes qualitative change according to Marx. Naturally, this is new class. Whether it is one person or 10 person, they will constitute a class. No, what I am saying. Suppose let us freeze the history. Let us freeze the history at a particular moment and say, at this point of time, this society is characterized by feudal society and only two relationships exist, barons and serfs. I am hypothetically freezing the history, whereas nobody can freeze the history, right? Now I am releasing that history, right? Means at that point of time only barons and serfs are there. Then it happens, the moment I am releasing it, a new source of energy is discovered. New source of energy is discovered means someone will discover, which Marx does not say explicitly, because he considers idea as a product of material condition. He is not ready to say that I got the idea, that's why I discovered a new source of energy. He is saying new source of energy came into existence, that's why I got the idea of developing a new technology. You will always find confusion while trying to answer chicken first or egg first, and you have to take a stand. Marx took the stand that source of energy comes into existence new, then only people think of using it. He is averse to the idea that since I needed a better source of energy, that's why I developed that, or I got an idea and that's why I developed a new source of energy, right? So initially 1 or 2 or 10 people will be there, all will not become capitalist simultaneously on one fine night. Gradually 1, 2, 3, 4, something like that will happen. So quantity of capitalists will increase. For example, if you talk about the agricultural sector in India, 20 years back it was said that 70% of the GDP was contributed by agriculture. Today, what we say? Only 30-35% of the GDP is contributed by agriculture. So 20-25 years back, we were not ready to say India is an industrial society. Today, we can easily say, and it is acceptable also, that India is an industrial society. Why? Because 65% of our GDP is contributed through industrial sector. So what change has occurred? Industries were there 100 years before also. Industries are there today also. The only thing is that more people, more contribution is today made by industry. Earlier it was agriculture which was contributing more. So in the beginning of 20th century, nobody said India is an industrial society. In the beginning of 21st century, everybody throughout the world accepts that India is an agricultural society, industrial society. The change is what? Only of quantity. So this change in quantity becomes qualitative. So Marx says quantitative change leads to qualitative change. Are you getting it? Right? Now, but there is another part also of this quantitative and qualitative. If you look at Marx, Marx says that with the change in ancient society to feudal society and feudal society to capitalist society, in fact quality deteriorates there is no qualitative change in the society. So we have to understand these two phases or two dimensions of quantitative changes becomes qualitative change. One says, if more and more people start working under the feudal mode of production, the society will come to be realized as feudalism. So quantity change leads to change in the stage, and new stage has come into existence. Similarly, feudal society is there, that will lead to capitalist society. Means initially a few people will be capitalists, gradually their band will grow, right, and finally we will say capitalist mode of production has come into existence. Quantitative change becomes qualitative change. But there is second aspect also of this qualitative change. What he says, if you look at, now if you move from primitive communism to capitalist society, the concept of private property has strengthened more and more. The concept of private property, this institution is mine. I could not have said that 150 years ago. Today, I can say that this institution belongs to me, or this property belongs to me. Earlier it was considered there is a share of society. Means today the concept of private property has got more strengthened. And if the private property is strengthened, alienation feeling will increase. Increase in feeling of alienation doesn't mean quality of life is improving. So he says from here to here there is no qualitative change. Means the quality is deteriorating for the people, particularly this class. Are you getting it? Right. So class struggle, this dimension of class struggle is capable of changing ancient society into feudal society and feudal society into capitalist society. Internal contradiction, the contradiction between new forces of production and old relations of production. New forces of production and old relations of production. This is bringing the change that new FOP cannot work within the fold of old ROP, so we need to establish new ROP. When the new ROP is established, here comes in existence the new mode of production, because mode of production is nothing but relationship between forces of production and relations of production, right. One more thing here we want to say, as I said, for example, because this is related with, and anytime you can expect in UPSC now, there are certain concepts, Marx, Weber and Parsons, right. When we will be reading Weber, we will be talking about Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism. Protestant ethic is a religion or religious practice. Weber has said that this religious practice, which we will be describing later on, is responsible for the emergence of rational capitalism in West. So what he says, religion gives rise to economic order. Like we are Hindu, here in India it is Hinduism, and if Hinduism is like Jainism has given rise to capitalism, we can say Jainism is capable of giving rise to capitalism. Business mode of production, because Jains, they emphasize too much on non-violence, and cultivation involves violence against the insects, right. You use pesticide, insecticide and many other things. So that's why that profession, that work occupation was not considered fit for Jains, and that's why most of the Jains, you will find they are into business enterprises. कुछ तो खाना है, right? And today they are capitalists in India. A large number of them are capitalists in India. Means the Jainist belief, Jainism has given rise to capitalism, you can see. Similarly, Weber has explained that Protestantism, Calvinism, this is a sect of Protestant Christianity, Calvinism, that gave rise to rational capitalism in West. Right? But you will be also reading there, later on I will be teaching, that there is a question in UPSC. Why Protestant-like religion gives rise to capitalist society or capitalism only in some society? Means two things they are saying. Even if Calvinism would have been present in other society, it is not necessary that it will give rise to capitalism. If Calvinism like tenets were present in other societies, that does not mean it will give rise to capitalism there. We'll be talking about that. Right? The reason is Weber says that theory in sociology is chance, not concrete. It only talks about probability. Secondly, he had also said that for the rise of capitalism, rational capitalism, certain preconditions are to be fulfilled. If they don't develop, those conditions are not there, even if Calvinism exists, capitalism will not emerge. So he talks about preconditions, and these preconditions emerged, developed due to historical factors only in 19th century West. Are you getting it? भाई मेरे पास 25 लाख रुपया नहीं हुआ तो मैं इंस्टीट्यूशन कहाँ से स्टार्ट करूंगा? That's a very simple thing. I have to remain a lecturer in some institute or some organization. I do not have any choice. Right? The moment I accumulate 25 lakhs rupees, I'll be able to hire, organize and start my own institution. That 25 lakh rupees, this is just hypothetically thought of. It may be 50 lakh. If you consider about Face the Challenge, then even 10 crore is less. Face the Challenge Academy. Have you heard of that? नहीं, हिंदू पेपर नहीं पढ़ते हो? हर तीसरे दिन फ्रंट पेज पे ऐड आता है, फुल पेज. हाँ, कल 10 लाख का था, कल या परसों. That cost 10 lakh rupees in a single day. संडे में भरा हुआ था. That one single full page, it costs around 10 lakhs rupees per day. So from their standard, even 10 crore is less, right? But anyway, there is some hypothetically arrived figure. Unless until I have that, I have to remain as wager. That is the precondition for setting up your own organization. Similarly, for the rise of capitalism, certain preconditions are required. Those preconditions developed only in 19th century West, according to Weber. Right? Marx says also similar thing. What he says, that if this society or this stage has to come into existence, the conditions for it starts developing in the previous stage. In the feudal mode of production itself, the conditions for, ancient mode of production, the conditions for the feudal mode of production starts developing. for the emergence of capitalist mode of production, the conditions that are required, it starts emerging in the feudal mode of production itself. That's why I said freedom at midnight. Now, if you look at the seeds of the freedom struggle, that was sown in 1857. Even before that, in the reform movements by Raja Ram Mohan Rai and others, you will find the seed. And at that time, it was completely monarchical. Are you getting it? So the seeds were there, and gradually what happened, that seeds grew and got matured by after the Second World War. So it's a long history of around 100 years when the conditions got matured for independence. When did it mature? In the previous stage itself, when we were still colony. Are you getting it? So what it says, the conditions for the emergence of capitalist mode of production starts developing in the old mode of production. It will not emerge till the condition matures in the womb of the old society. Unless until a fetus is matured in the womb of mother, the child will not be born. Are we getting it? Similarly, the new social order, according to Marx, never appears before all the productive forces required for its emergence matures in the womb of old society. When you read our study material, this sentence is being highlighted, made bold by me. No social order ever appears before all the productive forces required for it matures in the womb of old society. And the old social order never disappears till there is scope of its survival. Are you getting this? This is Marx theory. It means capitalism will come out only of feudal society. Feudalism will come only out of ancient society. There cannot be a capitalism directly from the ancient society. It cannot bypass. The change cannot be bypassed according to Marx. Right? So what I am saying here, each successive stage, each previous stage is a necessary condition for the successive stage. You just cannot bypass the order. Capitalism will emerge only from feudal society. Feudalism will emerge only from ancient society. Ancient society will emerge only from primitive communism. Right? In the same vein, Parsons talks about evolutionary universals. Evolutionary universals. This is the next question that is expected from UPSC. A comparative analysis of the conditions for the emergence of new society by Weber, Marx and Parsons, which are not explicitly mentioned in any book. We will see that. I just gave you the thing, just idea that this exists. As we will be talking about Weber, as we will be talking about Parsons, we will be clarifying all these concepts. Are you getting it? So, primitive communism will give rise to ancient society. Ancient society will be replaced by feudal mode of production. and feudalism will be replaced by capitalist mode of production. We have reached to the history of Europe. Now we have to talk about the future of Europe, right, here onwards. The whole modalities of and the mechanism of change will change from capitalist society onward. How will capitalism change to socialism? You might have heard about proletariat revolution, right? Proletariat revolution is the clash or struggle between capitalists and proletariat. Capitalists are in minority, proletariat are in majority. Till now we had said it is the minority versus minority class that will alter the society. Now we are going to say it will be the minority versus majority that will change the capitalist mode of production. Right? So this dimension will change capitalism to socialism and finally communism. What we said in a nutshell, Marx talks about two dimensions of class struggle: minority versus majority and minority versus minority. Till capitalism, the minority versus minority struggle will be capable of changing the society. But capitalism will change to socialism and communism because of minority versus majority struggle. Are you getting it? Now here we talked about internal contradiction between old relations of production and new forces of production. But there is another dimension. This is the internal contradiction capable of bringing change till capitalism. But what is the internal contradiction of capitalism? The internal contradiction of capitalism is known as falling tendency of rate of profit. Falling tendency of rate of profit. Falling tendency of rate of profit. Till capitalism, the contradiction between old ROP and new FOP. In capitalist mode of production, there is a contradiction, and that contradiction is known as falling tendency of rate of profit. What is the meaning of falling tendency of rate of profit? The falling tendency of rate of profit means as capitalism will progress, the margin of profit, the rate of profit for the capitalist will start reducing. A very simplified analysis is that capitalists work for profit, they produce for profit, and if the rate of profit becomes abysmally low, for capitalists it will no more be profitable. So capitalists themselves will shun capitalism. That's a very natural process. If I set up an enterprise and I don't get any profit from that enterprise, why would I take the pain and run it? What for? If I invest 100 rupees and get back 100 rupees or 100 rupees and 1 paisa in a year, there is no meaning of me continuing in that business. It's better than I don't invest and become simply worker. So whatever will be earning wages that I will be getting, that will be my profit. So when the situation reaches, the rate of profit goes down to a level where setting up an enterprise is no more beneficial, capable of providing benefit to the capitalist. They will themselves release their control over the forces of production. That's a very natural process, Marx says. Avoiding it? So let us see now how capitalism changes into socialism and then finally communism. Up to this, the modalities of change, the mechanism of change you have understood?
Mechanism which Marx it is very clear that he is trying to explain from feudal to capitalism. But from ancient to feudal, the mechanism.
Actually, the mechanism is same. Since we are not living in ancient period, so we are not aware of many things. So we are not able to understand that. Right? So induce it.
In a sense, he has generalized what he has seen.
Yes. No. Definitely he has seen through the reading of history. We are not having that much knowledge of history. So I cannot explain completely how ancient society changed. We are more concerned about, sociologists are more concerned about the capitalist industrial society. So sociology, it is aware of the modalities of the capitalist industrial society. So perhaps I am able to more efficiently or appropriately convey you the message. If tomorrow if I go and read ancient society in detail, feudal society in detail, I may be able to explain you what is the OROP, what is the exact and concrete fashion OFP, FOP and ROP during that period. Right? So capitalism. One thing we have already described about capitalism. What we had said, capitalism is a system of production for the pursuit of profit. Right? We had said, I am mentioning here those points, recalling. Constant pursuit of profit. Right? And corollary to that is that production is not for consumption but for the sake of exchange, to sell. Second part is of this, that capitalism operates in a free market condition. Free market condition. Capitalism operates in a free market condition. Right? Now, we are talking about profit. We are talking about profit that is made by capitalists. The issue is, from where does, what is the source of that profit? Marx tries to answer the source of that profit. Right? Normally, during Marxian period, whenever Marx queried, the supporters of capitalists said that it is beneficial for both capitalists as well as the proletariats, and that benefit is expressed in the terms that both are profited. Profit is also a form of benefit. So increase in salary, increase in standard of living of the worker, and accumulation of wealth by the capitalist, both were treated as a profit. Then Marx asked a question. If both are getting the profit, from where does this profit come? From where does this profit come? What is the source of that profit? Right? So, one thing is that we're trying to answer the source of profit. We'll see that. The next point that is being made by Marx, that is an actual descriptive term, he says that in the fledgling or the initial stage of capitalism, there exist 4 classes. Right? What are those classes? First he said, bourgeoisie. That in the beginning of the capitalism, there existed a bourgeois class, capitalist class. Second he says, petite bourgeoisie. Petite means, this is a German word that means small. In Marxist parlance, the ready pottery walas are also capitalist. Because they own their readies, that pushcart on which they sell. Nobody else, no one else owns that. They own it. The vegetables, the fruits and other things that they sell, they own it. If they want, they will sell. If they don't want, they will not sell. They are owner of the forces of production or capital. But they are small. Right? This is called petite bourgeoisie. Then he calls the third as proletariat. This is the third class. This is the third class that existed. And there existed a fourth class that is known as rentiers. Right? Rentiers. For example, I am running an organization in this here, and the basement is owned by somebody else, and for the last 4 or 5 years since I am here, he is not doing anything else than collecting the rent on every 20th. So he just calls me to him. He doesn't even talk to me. He calls Asutosh, check तैयार है? Asutosh sometimes says हाँ तैयार है. वो आता भी नहीं है, 5-7 दिन 10 दिन के बाद आता है. नहीं तैयार है तो बोलेगा बहुत लेट कर दे रहे हो. He will himself come always late. But if I make a late one today, he will definitely say. What is he contributing in the development of this institution? Nothing. Rentier. Right? So these are the rentiers who had land during feudal period. They rented their land and enjoyed whatever rent came. But they, he said, will gradually, they are very insignificant. They are very insignificant. How it will be insignificant, I can make you understand by certain simple calculation. Right now I am paying around 35,000 rupees for this basement, and your fee is 33,000. Right? Right now there are smaller number of people here, so you can think of that 12 students fee goes to the rentier. How sir is surviving? Because hardly 20 students are there. I have to pay the salary, I have to pay the electricity bill and so on. Right? But let us assume that this whole class like test series is full. 60 multiplied by 33. 2 hours, 4 months, 20 lakh, right? 3 batches in a year, 60 lakh, 2 sessions in a session, 1 crore 20 lakh. How much he is getting? Still the same 35,000 rupees per month, maybe increasing 38, 40. I had started with 25,000 rupees, now I am paying 35. In 4 years, 7,000-8,000 rupees has increased for him. What for me? I was in loss and I will be making crores. Will be. Right? I don't know. I am taking the risk, but I don't know. Now you just compare my situation and his situation. How insignificant he is becoming day by day. Rentiers. First, he will be turning lazy. The first, second generations of the people who were living in old Rajendra Nagar, mostly they came as a refugee. They worked very hard, created this. And look at their sons and daughters. Most of the sons and daughters, they open up a bottle in the night at 9 and 10 o'clock. They don't do anything from morning to evening, but bottle is very necessary because they are getting easy money. Right? This is for the sake of understanding, not for the writing. Don't write in your answer script. Right? How they are becoming insignificant, that's what Marx had also said. Because they are not involved in the production process. You are living on rent, and rent will be insignificant comparatively. It appears. I am living in a house that cost 1 crore 20 lakhs rupees and paying only 18,000 rupees per month. Right? In that 18,000, that person is paying taxes, maintaining the building, and many more things. Depreciation, X, Y, Z. Right? So this becomes insignificant. That's I am removing. So actually, 3 classes are present in the capitalist mode of production. Now we come to the source of profit. Marx says, following economist Adam Smith, that the value is created in a commodity only by labor. If you work, if you crystallize your labor, now today is the era of service sector, but Marxian period was that of manufacturing sector. In service sector, we do not produce anything. In manufacturing sector, we produce certain commodity. Right? So all the resources, the raw materials, that are there free in the nature. Right? When we are procuring, procurement means some laborers are collecting it, some laborers are working on what is present free in the nature. The moment laborer collect it, bring to the site, it costs, it gets some value. Now the fossil fuel, the petroleum products, they are lying deep inside the earth. What is its value? Nothing. It is said in USA, when the source of petroleum will deplete from the West Asia, then USA has enough reserve to continue further. But the only problem is that today it is so deep that commercial harvesting of those petroleum products is non-sustainable, economically unviable. That is lying in the free. The sun is free in the nature. To harvest the sun energy, we need solar photovoltaic cell. Somebody will make that solar photovoltaic cell. Somebody will be working on it, right? So, what Marx says, Adam Smith had said, labor only creates value in a commodity. This is Adam Smith's economist. Labor only creates value in a commodity. Labor only creates value in a commodity. Means a commodity has value because some people have worked and made it consumable. Are you getting it? Marx was also of that belief. He said, labor and labor alone creates value in a commodity. Capital does not. Capital does not. Capital means machine. If you purchase a machine and just put it, none of the machine will work on its own. Even if it is completely automated, we have to switch on. Something we have to do. At that time, the situation was not that of automation, so Marx could not envisage that. Right? When you read Anthony Giddens or Horton and Hunt, then there is a statement in that they have explained that nobody can predict the social change. Right? When we talk about prediction of change of a society, actually we talk about the prediction of a very short period. And they are giving an example. 200 years back, a sociologist would have predicted that European lanes will be full of filth and horse dung, because at that time horse cart were the main mode of transportation. So, in all the lanes, when the number increases, what happens? Horse dung will be there, and more it will be there, more and more horse dung will be. So, it will be full of horse dungs, filthy, right? But what is the situation today? We do not have horse itself on the roads. Today, we are thinking of what will happen to the air quality of cities like Delhi. Right? Who knows, tomorrow will at all not require any transportation facility to commute within the city limits. Smart city concept is that you have to minimum travel. The travel has to be minimum, and this is possible because of IT revolution. Look at the whole of the computer software industries. You don't need to go to the office. You can work from your home. You don't need to come to Delhi to attend the classes of Praveen Kishore sir. You can sit at your home and you can listen to me. The requirement of commutation is reduced. Are you getting it? Right? So, all these things are there, that what Marx says, that it is labor that creates value in a commodity. Value means, in simple terms, we can think about price. In simple term, we can think about price, right? When laborer works, his labor gets crystallized in the commodity, and then commodity gets certain value. Are you getting it? As far as this term value is concerned, Marx classifies value into two types. One is known as use value, another is known as exchange value. Use value, exchange value. Right? Use value is subjective. You cannot attach any quantitative value to the use of the object. For example, this marker, in how much money you will buy it? हैं? क्या करोगे इसको खरीद के? हैं? That's what I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. You do not have use of this marker, so it doesn't have any value to you. I have got used to it. That's why I find a value in this. It is very subjective. 2022, even if somebody sells in 220 rupees, I will purchase it. I do not have choice. If you meet an accident and you need blood, right? Your parents will be ready to sell all their property to purchase a few bottles of blood, because they will like to save their child. They have use for that blood, right? So this is subjective. No objective value can be attached to it, right? So what is the significance of this use value? Can you guess? What is the significance of use value? I am talking about sociologically. Why we are reading this use value? Just for the sake of knowing it, or it has some value as far as our understanding of capitalism, capitalist mode of production is concerned. Directly, relations of production. Think simple. If I do not have use for this, who will produce it? What for? I am the customer. And what I am doing, I am finding use of this marker. This is creating demand in the market. This is creating demand in the market, and that's why some capitalists are interested in setting up a factory that will produce this. So the use value of the object creates demand in the capitalist market. Creates demand. Relations of production, forces of production, वो बात की बात. That will come later on. That will come later. Right? This is the significance of use value as far as the market is concerned, as far as the capitalist mode of production is concerned. In North India, there is a religious occasion, or generally people worship Satyanarayan Bhagwan. सुना है? अक्षरधाम नहीं, वो तो स्वामी नारायण है. कथा होती है सत्यनारायण की, एंड एवरी मंथ पीपल डू दैट एट ए स्मॉल स्केल ऑल्सो. यहाँ पे जो सामान नहीं मिलते ना, यूएसए में मिल जाएगा, बिकॉज देयर ऑल्सो द migrants, right? They do that, and someone among themselves become a pandit, और वो कथा कहता है और वो बन जाता है. And that's why there are many people who are producing those products. You will find outlets for the requirements during various pujas of Hindus. Demand, and that's why some people are being produced, right? This is subjective. Since there is a demand in the market, that's why capitalists are attracted to produce to get profit, right? What is exchange value? Exchange value is the average labor power crystallized in the creation or production of a commodity. Write down. Average labor power crystallized, average labor power crystallized in the creation and production of a commodity. In the creation or production of the commodity. Means, if there is a pottery maker, what does he do? He goes and takes the soil, appropriate soil from a place, brings it, right? Then mixes it with water, prepares it to put on the chalk, right? And then prepares the pottery, right? So the whole process, suppose he is making some diyas, right, that we burn during Diwali celebration. So on an average, suppose 8 hours a day he works, and in 30 days he creates some amount. So we can analyze that a single diya will be made by so many working hours of a laborer. Are we getting it? Means, when the laborer is working, his labor power is getting crystallized in that commodity. Right? This is exchange value. Average labor power crystallized in the production of a commodity is its exchange value. Are we getting it? Now there is another term that is called price. This is a marker. Someone would have worked on it. The labor is crystallized, and then this is sold in 22, 24 or whatever may be. Let us assume that there is an object A. It is being created by the work of a laborer who works for 10 hours. Right? And in the market, it costs 100 rupees. Right? So the exchange value of this commodity A, we are likely to say it is 100 rupees. Right? But here we want to mention There are two things. Exchange value of a commodity is constant. Price fluctuates. How price fluctuates? If demand is more, supply is less, then price will go high. Like today, one student, he inquired to me directly, so what is the fee of test series? I said, again he called me, sir, एक चीज भूल गया, कुछ discount मिलेगा? Then I said to him, discount तब मिलता है जब माल बिकता नहीं है. जब बिक रहा है तो क्यों डिस्काउंट? I was getting it. So later on I also thought that I should not have spoken in that language. That's not appropriate for a teacher. But anyway, it all of a sudden it came out of my mouth. Right? I could have said something else to him. But anyway, means, so if demand is more, supply is less, price will be up. If demand is less, supply is more, price will be less. Right? But the price will be never less than the exchange value. You might have seen that when sales, off-season sales, they are never less than 50%. जब किसी काम लायक नहीं रहता है ना वो, तभी वो 50% से कम में मिलता है. Because nobody will like to sell at a lesser price than the cost of sale. There are many other factors also. Right? So it's always sell up to 50%. Means actually, even in that 50%, that owner gets some profit. That is its exchange value, can say. When demand and supply are balanced, price of a commodity is equal to exchange value. Are you getting it? When demand and supply is balanced, then price of a commodity will be equal to exchange value. Right? I will explain how, even if when demand and supply is balanced, how does capitalist profits from it? That will be later. Right? 20 extra. So suppose he was getting 20 earlier, now 20 extra, 40. Another capitalist. And I am investing 100 rupees. So profit, so its price will again reach. And I said 100 rupees, the laborer gets only 50 rupees. Right? 50 rupees goes to laborer. The capitalists give the laborers in the form of wages 50 rupees. And the rest of the 50 rupees is kept as profit. 50, rest 50 as profit. Now the next issue is, what are the factors that decide the wages of the laborer as 50? What decides that laborer should get what? There should be some factor to decide about that. Right? What laborer gets is known as exchange value of laborer. This is the exchange value of laborer. A little bit complex, but not difficult to understand. Now, the issue is, how how do we decide about this 50 or market decides about this 50? This is decided on the basis of the material that laborer needs to consume for reproduction of his labor power. Think like this. Suppose I am teaching 2 hours a day here, and let us assume that in 2 hours I am completely exhausting my energy. Hypothetically, I am thinking 4 hours I get completely exhausted, but I have to teach now 4 to 5 hours after some time every day. So 2 hours I am getting, my energy is completely exhausted. How will I work tomorrow? I will have to replenish this exhausted energy. I am spending some energy while giving the lecture, and that energy has to be replenished. It is required to prepare me for tomorrow's work. Right? And to replenish this energy, I need to consume some materials, some food items, right? Many other things, psychological factor and any other thing, many other things we can say, but more to less with the material consumption. Those materials will be produced. Those materials will be produced, and in the production of that material, some labor power will be crystallized. Suppose for 2 hours of lecture, if I could reduce the consumption to the level of eggs, I need 12 eggs to eat in a day to reproduce my labor tomorrow. 12 eggs, they cost around 50 rupees. Right? That is my exchange value. Based on consumption. Reproduction of labor. Reproduction of labor. Okay, skill. If I am doing some work which is related to brain, it's not simply physical exercise. I need to consume protein more. Protein is more costly. If I am doing only physical work, I can replenish my spent energy by the consumption of carbohydrate alone. Carbohydrate is cheap because it is produced more. Are you getting it? So all these are being calibrated by Marx. He says we can calculate. We can calculate. Right? We don't want to calculate that. We want to just understand in a hypothetically explained manner. Right? Now, why do I work? Because I want to work. That's again presumption. It's different that I am not working what I like to work. But let us assume human being is creative and it likes to work. So that is also required for me, for my satisfaction. Right now I am not taking into consideration that alienation aspect, just ignoring for the time being. Right? It means what? In 10 hours I am creating value, what? NLT. NLT. Are you getting that? Necessary labor time. 5 hours, right? This is equivalent to 5 hours. This is again 5 hours. In the surplus labor time, the value that by Marx. The surplus labor time that I work, a laborer works, creates some value. That value is known as surplus value, And that's why Marx says capitalism is irrational. It is an exploitative economic order. करे कोई खाए कोई. Assuming that the value does not go to him, not the source of profit. It can never be. The source of profit will always be the labor. Capital or machine is known as constant capital and labor is known as variable capital. Variable capital is the source of profit according to Marx. Still capitalists go for mechanization. Why do they do? Now, how can we increase the profit? Right? Now, one method of increasing the profit is right. Another way of mechanization is if you purchase a machine and it is working only for 8 hours. For the next capitalism. There is another way through which we can reduce the contribution of constant capital. This is by importing or sourcing cheap raw materials. Colonization by European capitalists. This was done by colonizing Africa and Asia by European capitalists. Are you getting it? Right? So, all these ways between capitalists. Capitalism presumes free market situation that instills free market among the capitalists, free competition among the capitalists. Providers are bound to be in red as far as their cash register is concerned, because with this technology the call rate will go further down and they will not be able to further get the profit and will not be able to give back to the banks. Being considered. Now I take the example was 16 rupees 80 paise and incoming was 8 rupees 40 paise. If you talk for 1 minute, someone else has called, you had to cup up 8 rupees 40 paise. When I purchased first time this cell phone in 1998 or 1999 perhaps, at that time the call rates were 2 rupees 30 paise outgoing and 2 rupees 30 paise incoming. In 2001 or 2, Reliance was launched. Right? Now they had created new technology WLL and in that many things had happened. Suddenly the call rate incoming dropped to 0, free incoming. Outgoing came to 1 rupees and then it is hovering around that. Right now it is 50-60 paise. Recently Airtel and maybe Vodafone also that might have launched, add 99 rupees with your DSL services and get unlimited STD and local call free. If if you have a landline with DSL service, always with DSL service landline comes, right, at 99 rupees, and outgoing calls STD and local is free. Whereas earlier they were charging 1 rupees per minute. This is because of competition. So there is a tendency, because of this free competition, of falling the rate of profit. To increase this rate of profit, various such measures are adopted, but they have also their limitation. This is called falling tendency of rate of profit. In a free market situation, the rate of profit has a tendency to go down continuously. That the rate of profit it goes down so low that no more it is profitable, right? And that leads to doom of capitalism. This falling rate of profit is a very essential element of Marxist theory, which is not in our syllabus. Proletariat revolution is there, polarization of classes is there, class in itself changing to class for itself is there. All those are there in syllabus, but their reason, that is falling rate of profit, is not in our syllabus. And that's why I spent around 1 hour to explain this. You will not be asked this question, but you need to understand how does the rate of profit falls down, the mechanism that is adopted by the capitalist to improve or increase the rate of profit. But ultimately the rate of profit will again go down. Because here you see, if NLT is reduced, 6 hours surplus labor time, 6 hours of value, more profit, competition, other people will be attracted in that sector. Again it will go down to 50, 40, 30, something like that. Are you understanding it? Right? So various cycles occur. That's the Marxist explanation. So rate of profit is going down. What happens when rate of profit goes down? Right? When the rate of profit goes down. Going down or falling simply. Let us assume the Indian condition. What is the worth of Ambani brothers? Some $150 billion, something like that. 1,50,000 crore रुपया, maybe, 1.5 lakh crore, right? So 1.5 lakh crore. Let us assume its turnover of Ambani brothers, right? What is the turnover of this Melaram shop? There is a retail store here. That's the I refer generally this shop to reach to this institute. Landmark, right? What's the worth? What is the turnover annually? How many lakhs? 20 to 25 lakhs rupees annually, right? Let us assume 50 lakh rupees annually, right? Now let us assume that these two are in competition with each other. They are producing the same thing, selling the same thing. If the rate of profit is 20%, what will be the gross profit of Ambani brothers? 30,000 crore. 10 lakh rupees, right? Annually. Have you seen that Motu? Mukesh Ambani's son, IPL mein nazar aata. I have heard that he is depressed. I don't know why he is depressed. Ambani's son is depressed, whereas Mukesh Ambani is not like Bill Gates, who has said that I will not transfer even a single penny to my son and daughter. I will spend all my money in philanthropic activities. Basic, thoda bahut de dega bas. But Mukesh Ambani is likely to transfer all his property to his sons and daughters. Still his son is depressed. I have heard, I don't know whether it is right or wrong. But the obesity that I see in him, that's one of the characteristic feature of depressed people. That is some, not all, but some. The medicine has impact like that you get obese, right? जितना भी खाता होगा वो तो वो उसका बेटा भी अगर उतना ही तंदुरुस्त हो, I think it is hardly going to make any difference on his life. 10 lakh, Melaram, his son, daughter, wife, they can live a good life, good living standard, where the son can study in public school, where they can enjoy air conditioner, they can enjoy metro, sometimes taxis, maybe a car, etc., etc. Now let us assume that rate of profit goes down, it becomes 10%, 15,000 rupees, 5 lakh. Melaram will have to withdraw his son and daughter from public schools and put them in MCD schools. Though Kejriwal is saying that I will make NDMC's school better than public schools, that is private schools, but let us hope for the best, right? If it goes further down, 7.5 thousand crore, 2.5 lakh. Now see the situation. Still that Motu can live a very good life, right? What about this Melaram? They will start struggling for survival. So what's the way out of that to survive that struggle? Leave the ownership and become a worker in the Reliance Industries. Are you getting it? So this person who was a capitalist, he will sell his property, he will disown his capital and become wage earner, right? This is the Melaram who is now becoming proletariat. The falling rate of tendency has impact that it leads to what is known as proletariatization. Proletariatization. Because the small capitalists will find their ventures unviable, non-sustainable for their life. And who will purchase their property? And these people will be wiped out. So the capital is getting concentrated in the hands of a few capitalists. This is known as centralization of capital. Proletariatization means becoming proletariat. Centralization of capital means capital getting concentrated in a few hands. Right? Now what will happen? These people will definitely try to increase their margin of profit. That they can do by reducing the necessary labor time or increasing the working hour. Either you increase the surplus labor time, that is possible by increasing the working hour of the laborers, or reduce the NLT, that is by mechanization. In the beginning, as I had said, during Marxist period, in Germany, workers were put to work for 12 to 14 hours. That was by increasing the overall working hours. And later on by greater mechanization. What are they doing? That is leading to more exploitation of the proletariat. It is true that with the progress of capitalism, the lifestyle of the working laborers, working class improves. But the gap between bourgeoisie and proletariat widens. Overall, the standard of living for the proletariat class improves. But in comparison, the situation of the capitalist class improves much better. इनके पास फैन आती है तब तक इनके पास एक कमरे में 4 एयर कंडीशनर. ये साइकिल पे चढ़ते हैं तब तक ये जो है मैबैक पे चढ़ना शुरू कर देते हैं. राइट? दे हैव एक्सेस टू द स्कैर्सेस्ट ऑफ कंज्यूमेबल्स प्रेजेंट इन दिस वर्ल्ड. साइबेरिया से जाके 2 बर्ड्स को ले आओ. आई लाइक टू ईट देयर मीट वेरी मच. It comes the best of the consumables. In winter, I want to eat mango. It comes from far off. Are you getting all these things? So their lifestyle, their income, their standard of living increases much. Their hold over the property further increases. Right? Means these people in relative terms are becoming poorer in comparison to bourgeoisie. This is called pauperization. Pauper is a German word that means poor. Pauperization means becoming poor. This becoming poor is he is talking about relative poverty. Is talking about relative poverty. Are you getting it? In this situation also again that rate of tendency will go down. So what to do? Further mechanize. Mechanization requires capital. Right? So what happens? Merger takes place of different business houses or businessmen. This is called centralization of capital. Centralization of capital. ANZ Bank merges with Grindlays. Sahara merges with Sahara Airlines was bought by Jet Airlines. It's a merger. Right? Today merger and acquisitions are a very prominent domain for lawyers. And that's why corporate law is a job even in UPSC. Recently it has been added 8-10 years back. Earlier it was not there. Right? So centralization of capital. Oh, sorry, yes, concentration of capital. Sorry. This is called concentration of capital. Concentration of capital. Right? Means this is moving upwards, this is moving downwards in a relative term. This is called polarization. Moving pole apart is polarization. So you are getting idea of how the society is getting polarized into two classes, proletariat and bourgeoisie. But he says society will polarize in two homogeneous classes. Now centralization of capital explains well the homogenization of bourgeois classes. How does homogenization of proletariat classes occur? Right? Mechanization. This is one, and this is the second, that is known as social production method. These two are responsible for homogenization of working class. Homogenization of working class. Homogenization of working class. How does it happen? Marx says mechanization shifts skill with hand to skill with machine. Marx shifts skill with hand, that is working class workers, to skill with machine. So differentiation within the working class ends. Switch on, switch off, switch on, switch off. Working class, that ends. Skilled labor, you are saying. Marx does not say. Marx does not say. That's a criticism of Marx. He says mechanization shifts skill with hand. Right? And this you know from what Weber had said alienation. What Marx had said about alienation. People are feeling more and more alienated because they are no more getting involved into the work. Right? So this mechanization, what does do? It is making the working class a homogeneous class. Switch on, switch off. You have to work with machine. You have to just operate a machine. And during Marxian period, 1818 to 1883, manufacturing sector, those were the machines that were run by steam. Computer and other technologies were not there. So single technology was there, and his analysis is based on that single technology, steam driven machines. Right? So it is becoming homogeneous. Right? Second is said social production method. The factory system of production is such that there is high density of population around the factories. People live in slums, nearby areas, If you go to the feudal era, then what you find, villages, hamlets were there, quite scattered, right? There was no proximity with each other. The commutation, the transportation technology was quite weak. So there was a difficulty in interaction. But around a factory, a large number of people are living in a small space. That he calls as social production method. Factory system of production, factory system, and laborers, settlement around factories in a concentrated, in a dense space, right? Highly dense areas. If you live scattered, interaction is reduced. If you live in an area which is densely populated, my room opens in front of your rooms. For how many days we can ignore each other? Right? If you go to those unauthorized areas, so-called unauthorized area in Delhi, you will find community sentiment more strong. You come to the apartment areas where we live, I don't know who is living. I have been living in that apartment for 8 to 9 hours, years, right? And there are many people also who are living, and we have never talked to each other. Because rarely we meet, we come across each other. His timing is different from mine. I sleep in my room, he sleeps in his own room, air conditioner, and one of the problem with air conditioner is you have to keep your doors and windows shut. What about those unauthorized area? Room over room. So in summer, all will go on the top to sleep. Right? So in this densely populated area, the frequency of interaction increases. Right? Workers come in close proximity with each other, share each other's miseries. Right? Sukh Dukh. Yeah, Sukh Dukh. I remember there was a person in front of me and we had a good relationship. But I fell sick. His father died. I never went to his house because I had work. That kind of relationship, highly anonymous relationship, we middle class people share with each other. Forget about the upper class people. वो तो घर में ही इतने कमरे होते हैं, 4 मेंबर होते हैं, पता नहीं चलता है कौन कब आया कब गया. A lot of problem is there. Right? So what we are finding here, that this is a situation which is bringing working class, the workers, in close proximity with each other. When people live in close proximity, they are likely to share their experiences, they are likely to share their miseries, right? And once they start sharing, they become aware of each other's situation, right? Workers become aware of each other's and their true situation of exploitation. All share that we all are exploited by the capitalist class. वो तो मजे लेते हैं, काम हम करते हैं, मजे वो लेते हैं. Right? This is becoming aware of the true situation, the situation of exploitation, and they come out of false class consciousness. As a result, come out of false class consciousness, gain true consciousness, gain true consciousness. This is called a situation, class for itself. So, in the beginning, the working class were in the situation of class in itself. Now, they have changed to class for itself, becoming truly aware of their true situation, their like situation of being exploited at the hands of capitalist. Right? And this is also leads to homogenization of the proletariat class. Right? So, homogenization of two classes and polarization. So, as capitalism progresses, society polarizes into two homogeneous classes, and the labor class is characterized by class for itself, aware of true class consciousness. It has got rid of the false class consciousness. That's the situation, mature for what is known as proletariat revolution. What is known as proletariat revolution. Right? Tomorrow at 2 o'clock, what happens after this proletariat revolution? Thank you.